Hello, I'm Daniel. This talk is called Training in Diligence. Training in Diligence. In this, I'm going to read a verse from the 37 Practices of a Bodhisattva, and then I'm going to comment on it. This is just, the 37 Practices is just a list of things that are supposed to help us get motivated on the path, help us unleash our full potential for compassion and mindful awareness, okay? This is it. Even the listeners and solitary Buddhas who accomplish only their own benefit are seen to be as persistent as those extinguishing a fire burning in their hair. It is the practice of the Bodhisattvas to muster diligence, the source of all qualities for the benefit of all beings. So, diligence. And some people like to say enthusiastic effort instead of diligence here. I do like the word diligence. But, so first of all, the listeners and the solitary Buddhas. So, the listeners and the solitary Buddhas are essentially people who sort of just do the practice on their own. What does on their own means? It means they don't have the support of a community. They don't have teachers. They don't have talks like this that they listen to. They just do the practice on their own. Okay? And it's considered, and that's, I'm oversimplifying that. The listeners are supposed to be the people who literally were present in the Buddha's life and listened to him. But the solitary Buddhas are people who just, all on their own, are doing the practice, not having the support of a teacher, not having the support of a community, not having spiritual friends. And it can be done that way. It can. It has always been solitary Buddhas, or they're also called Pratyeka Buddhas, have always been part of the tradition, something that was talked about. It can be done, but it's harder. It's like working out at home by yourself versus working out at the gym or working out with a friend, right? Working out at home by yourself is harder. And so having a community really helps with our diligence, which is what I'm going to talk about now. And then maybe I'll say more about community after that. But diligence, or enthusiastic effort, represents our motivation on the path. It's our devotion to cultivating the other traits we're trying to cultivate. It's the one that really keeps us inspired to continue rather than giving up. We can recognize the things that cause suffering in ourselves and others, and we should do what we can to lessen these things. So, the Buddha sometimes described life in terms of watering seeds. The seeds of anger, jealousy, and despair exist in our minds, and we try to refrain from watering them if we can. We want to water seeds of hope and sympathetic joy and compassion and kindness and mindfulness and awareness, trying to bring happiness to ourselves and others. And so the perfection of diligence represents striving to water positive seeds in our minds instead of negative ones, trying to cultivate those things that we know help and not spiral out of control with negativity, which we have a tendency to do. I wanted to say we have a tendency to do that these days, but I think probably always. So, what is diligence? Diligence is just, I really don't want to meditate, but I'm going to. I really don't want to meditate, but I'm going to. Or a really ordinary example I can think of is like, I don't want to go help my friend move, but I'm going to. Diligence. That's diligence and kindness and generosity, right? So that's what it is. It's when you don't want to do something and you do it anyway because it's good for you. Because it's good for you. I think of the smallest example I can think of is flossing, because it's something we all know we should do, and for the most part we don't do it. And we have to bring diligence to that, which, I mean, that seems really small, and it is, but the small things are big things. The small things are big things. It's an important way to take care of our health, and we don't want to, so we don't, for whatever reason. It's not even hard, and it doesn't even take a long time, but still we just don't do it. And meditation's the same way. We know meditation is good for us. We know that it's going to improve our lives in all sorts of ways, and we're going to be a good influence on the world around us, but we don't want to do it. So that's why diligence, every virtue, every positive thing we can talk about, has to be joined with diligence. It has to. It has to, because just not giving into temptation, that doesn't come naturally to us. Generosity doesn't always come naturally to us. Patience doesn't always come naturally to us. Mindfulness doesn't always come naturally to us. But with diligence, we work hard to cultivate these things. We work hard to cultivate these things, and if we're lucky, we can learn how to be excited about these things too. Be excited about sitting down to meditate, because I know this is for my self-care. I need this. This will make me able to weather the storms of life better and more capable of focusing and paying attention and showing kindness and bringing harmony to the world around me. So that is what diligence is. That is what diligence is. And because community was mentioned in the verse first, well, people who strive for their own benefit are seen as persistent as those extinguishing a fire burning in their hair. This translation is kind of an unwieldy sentence, right? Practice like your hair's on fire would be better. And that's to say, we have to remind ourselves this is important. Unleashing our full potential is important. Sitting down for some peace and quiet a little bit each day is important. We don't want to think of this as a hobby. I think that's a trap we can fall into, is thinking of it as a hobby. And it's not a hobby. This is supposed to change your life. This is a lifestyle. This is a way of life. Mindfulness is a way of life. And if we think of it as a hobby, then we're probably not going to do it that much. We're probably not going to do it that much. So just reminding yourself it's important should help us manifest some diligence, I hope. And just reminding ourselves, oh, I'm kind of uncomfortable when I don't do it. That's sort of what I've discovered is when I don't do a meditation practice for a few days, I feel weird. I feel just kind of vaguely uncomfortable. And it doesn't take a lot. That is, I can go several days in a row where I meditate 5 to 10 minutes, and that's enough to keep me on track. So I went on a trip with my partner, my fiance Alicia, to Washington, D.C., and I noticed, or rather, I didn't notice anything, but she noticed, Daniel, you're really anxious. Is everything okay? She noticed that while we were there. I had been there 3 or 4 days, and she had been there 1 or 2 days. And she was like, you're really anxious. Are you okay? And I realized I was traveling. I was out of my routine. Because if I was out of my routine, I had not set aside time to meditate. And I was anxious. Even though I don't think of myself as someone that meditates a whole lot. I think a lot of people do it more than me. I was anxious just from not doing it at all for 3 or 4 days. And so that sort of motivates me to be diligent, just to remember, oh, I'm not going to like it if I don't do this, right? I'm going to be uncomfortable. And it's noticeable. So I try hard to meditate at least every 2 days. I try to do it every day, but if not, at least every 2 days. And I would encourage you to do that as well. And it doesn't have to be like a big production. You don't have to light incense or do a chant or be in front of a pretty statue or whatever. You can just sit on the floor, maybe throw a pillow down there, or sit in a chair. Just sit in silence and just notice what's happening around you. And that's enough. That counts as meditating. And that will bring enormous benefit to you. And we just have to remind ourselves that it's better when we do it. And that can help us manifest diligence. So what about solitary Buddhas in community? There's a reason why communities exist around this. And that is, when we're alone, when we're the only one doing it, it is hard to motivate ourselves to do it. So it helps having a place to go do it outside of your house. You don't have to have that, but it does help having a meditation group to go to, somewhere to go, because that makes it sort of more special. Although we're all not going out of our houses for it right now. We have to, go to virtual meditation groups or whatever. But that helps, just having a place to go. And then number 2 is having other people around that have the same goal as you, that are also sitting in meditation. That helps a lot too. If you're in a meditation hall with other people doing it, you can't just check your phone. Or, I mean, you can, but it's uncomfortable and embarrassing. So it's sort of, in that way, it motivates you. Because shame is a motivator, and you will feel ashamed if you check your phone. Whereas at home, I'm sitting in meditation, and I just want to look at my phone real quick, right? Nobody's going to know, right? That's the thing. And so being around others and just sitting because they're sitting, I think just being around other people doing it helps us do it. But then also, if you're part of a community, hopefully that means there are people who have been doing it longer than you and can sort of give advice if you're struggling, or can talk about their struggles and what made things hard for them, or can talk about the benefits of meditation or whatever, right? Having more experienced people around you also motivates and inspires you. Not just having a buddy as experienced as you, but having people with more experience helps too. So that's why having a community is important. I've sort of not had a local community for a little while here, and I tried to start my own for a while, and now I'm leaning into another community at this time. I'm leaning into another Buddhist community. I'm getting involved, and I feel like I need it. So that's a good thing for me. There are several Buddhist communities here in Kansas City, and I think I found the one that I want to be involved with. So that's really good news for me, and it's going to help me be more diligent. And so that's that. And that is about all I have to say right now. So this has been a talk on training in diligence, and again, sometimes people call this enthusiastic effort. I think that phrasing is just as good as diligence, and I hope this talk has been helpful. And if you don't have a community, try to find one. And if there are a lot of red flags and reasons not to go to that one, maybe try to find another one. And if you just don't click, maybe try to find another one. A lot of places have more than one meditation community around. Kansas City has a bunch of them, and that's why I tried to start my own. I couldn't really get it to grow the way I wanted to because there's so many options already. And that's true in most large cities and in a lot of small ones too. So see if you can find somewhere to go. That's what I recommend. And if not, see if you can find a friend that will meditate with you. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video or listen to this podcast, whichever you're doing. Have a good day.